Hey guys, welcome to A Little Help for Our Friends, the podcast for people with loved ones struggling with mental health. Hello, little helpers. Today's a fun one. We're gonna continue our conversation from last week about couples and the last time we talked about like the withdrawer pursuer dynamic, but this time we're going to talk about how to come together, how to co-regulate each other, this kind of ideal state for couples. But we're going to start the conversation with life updates, particularly my life updates, and talk about how my wonderful fiance co-regulates with me. Um, so yeah. Kivi, do you have anything to say about Cool Mind?
You just like drop the bomb and then pass it on to me. Sure, yeah, cool mind. Um,
Cool Mind.
cool
Hmm.
mind. We got some exciting stuff. So Cool Mind, if you don't know, is our platform where we teach you all the skills that we're talking about, which is how to manage in a relationship with someone who has mental illness or addiction or emotion dysregulation. So how to take care of yourself, but also strategies for how to communicate effectively and support them. We are launching a group in a couple weeks on July 22nd, I think. And so we want you to join. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a bunch of us. It's going to teach all the skills that we talk about. We're going to be really friendly and really supportive and just have a lot of fun. So if you're interested, check out Coolamind, KULAMIND.com. And if you're not sure what the fuck I'm talking about, there's a way to just book a call with me. Even if you just want to chat and have like free 30-minute therapy, like there I am. I shouldn't have advertised that. That's not official therapy. It's just assessment and consultation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
over to
listening.
you and the actual exciting updates.
Well,
What happened this weekend?
the first exciting update is that we can remove the disclaimer at the end of our episodes pretty soon because I passed my dissertation defense. So will no longer be directly affiliated with Duke University, which I'm sure is a relief for them. Um, no, but defending the dissertation was a great experience. Everything went off without a hitch, which was a relief. Um, my advisor was really great and like took us all out to dinner. And I don't know, it was just, it's a, I feel like I was waiting for the defense to pass before it felt like the rest of my life could start. And it passed. And then the day after that, Jason proposed to me. So we're really, it started, life
You're
started
really
right after the
adulting.
defense.
Yay! Oh,
Yeah.
you really did so. Oh, sorry, everyone. I lost my voice, so this is a great time to podcast. I'm gonna hack up every once in a while to regulate you all. You did a super good job. I know that you were so anxious before, and it was so funny. We like couldn't find the room that you were presenting in. We couldn't figure out how to connect the computer to the project. I mean, it was just like a comedy of errors like coming into it. And I remember you were texting me all sorts of questions about stats. You were like, "Oh my God, okay, why did I choose this statistical plan?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, you know this, and also you could just read it. Like, what's going on?" And you were just, but it was such a good presentation. You were able to dive into the details and really show that you knew so much about mentalization and empathy and shame and borderline personality disorder, and but also could make it relatable. Like you really like were talking about, being able to read the room, so to speak, and you did a really hard study. I mean, for someone who doesn't like research, you did like a really hard dissertation. Like you developed, you basically did like a behavioral study of shame online, which needed to validate like a measure that you made up, a task that you made up,
Oh,
which
I
is
can
hard.
object and say why all these things were not hard, but yeah, I'll
Sure.
take
Yeah,
it.
you could do that. Sure. No, but I mean, it was such a beautiful moment because like you really have grown so much over it was like so cool to watch you from like the moment you came into interview to like that moment because you were probably as equally terrified and insecure that from start to finish, but just like your mastery of this stuff is just really, really amazing, and you should be really proud.
Well, thank you. That's very
Yeah.
kind. I We should do an episode on is it actually possible to be proud of yourself? Because I find this difficult to do sometimes. I mean,
Yes.
like,
Maybe not for you.
I'm fine. I'm feeling the urge to like immediately discredit myself, which I don't know why I do. And I'm examining. That is the examination of this week is why do I keep discrediting myself in all sorts of ways that then leads people to think that I'm emotionally immature. So yeah, thank you. I am proud of myself. I am waiting for the moment when it hits. I don't know. I keep waiting for something to like click into place. But yeah,
You're
it's
Dr. Trumbull. You know that, right? You could put on your
can I?
everything
Or do I have to
Dr.
wait 3 months
Trumbull.
until I graduate? I don't know what the rules are with that.
When you defend your dissertation, that's like you get it. I mean, you didn't finish the program, but you got your, you passed your defense for your dissertation. You're
Maybe I'll
Dr.
make a
Trumbull.
new Instagram handle, Dr. Trumbelina.
Dr. Trumbull.
That's really professional. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel I'm just not dreading anything in my life now. Um, in any, major way. Everything that I have to do now feels conquerable. I mean, I know that's not technically true for literally the rest of my life, but like in the near future, I mean, I want to do a separate grad school episode, but grad school is just it's not even that I think it's necessarily that much harder than other people's jobs. It really might not be at all. I don't know. People have their opinions, but it just feels like it's a constant gauntlet. It's like, and you're evaluated all the time. It's like these big milestones all the time. And you're just like, okay, like once I pass that gauntlet, then I'll like be legit, or like that gauntlet, and
Yeah.
then I'll finally understand this stuff. And to just like not have that be hovering over my head, except for the EPPP, which feels stupider. I don't know. It's just really nice. And it was also nice to end Duke on a high note. I always kind of hate the school I'm in until I end, and then suddenly I'm like, ah, what a lovely, amazing place. Like UVA is just enshrined in my mind as this like wonderful place, even though I didn't have that great of a time there. So that's kind of happening to Duke now. But yeah,
I
Dr.
mean, I think the irony is
Mhm.
that, I mean, research is me search, right? So it's like your shame really messes up your experience of most things, and it's also like taking away. I mean, I'm glad that you feel relieved and like that you don't have this like sword is hanging over your head, but like you're so shame prone that it's just like you can't even be like, I did a really hard thing. Like I can do research now. But
Yeah.
it's not an intervention. We'll just leave it
Do
at
you feel like though that grad school like makes this chronic like humility problem for women? I feel like I was constantly told to be like humble, like like I don't know.
I think that's unfortunately a lot of industries. I think
Yeah.
that a lot of competitive industries, I find that in industry, I find that in academia, grad school, where it's like men are told to talk openly, not even told, but given messages and good feedback if you talk openly about who you are and the things you are and what you believe in, right? But
Hmm.
for us, it's like, check yourself, make sure that you're behaving appropriately, smile, don't wear this, don't wear that. Like there's a lot of emphasis on us managing ourselves to please other people.
Yeah.
That's sexism.
Yeah. I just think it was like unbelievably present in my grad school experience, the amount of times I was told to like, yeah, behave, check yourself, like be more humble, be modest, tone down, like, and so then, you have these big milestone achievements and it's kind of hard to then pivot and be like, yes, I'm the best.
Sure.
I'm
I think
amazing.
you had a particularly hard time because you came in with a bang. Like everyone
Yeah,
was like, "Oh my God, this is the girl from The Bachelor," right? So like there's a lot of like image of you out there and
yeah,
image to shape and learn to control in some legit ways, like like pivoting from being seen on The Bachelor to pivoting to a professional therapist is different, and it takes like kind of intentional image management.
yeah,
However, it was like intense because there was a lot of assumptions poured on you because of that. So
yeah.
yeah, you had it harder in that way.
Well, anyway, I don't want to blow our load for the grad school episode,
You're
but
right. You're right.
we can we can
Let's talk
get
about
into
the other exciting thing where the literal next day,
literally the next day. Yes.
Jason proposed to you. Tell us a story.
Well, so I mean, I obviously had an inkling that he would propose because I'd already booked the wedding venue. So, and he had RSVP'd. So I was pretty sure that at some point he would propose. Also, I designed my own ring, and I knew that he had purchased it, and but I didn't know when he was going to do it. And you and him colluded to make me think that it would be in New York. So I was like kind of 50-50 on whether it would happen. Man, I was more like I was like 40-60. But anyways, dissertation was great. He was originally not going to come because his son's driver's test was that day, and then I would say lightly whined about that, and he chose my dissertation, which, I hate like his son getting screwed over. And like I think that Kai is okay with this and like didn't even remember that that was when his driver test was originally scheduled for. But it was really nice to have Jason because I originally, like before you changed your patient, I like thought that I was gonna have to Uber over there alone. And oh my God, what a catastrophe that would have been given that the location did not show up in Google Maps. So, Jason like drove me to the dissertation and was there for me and we celebrated that day. And he told me like that the next day he had some things planned to help me relax after the dissertation. It turned out he had booked like a spa treatment at like the really nice spa there, and then they canceled on him 2 days before, which would make me ballistic if I were him. But anyway, so that morning, like we went to brunch at a new spot, and then he was like, I didn't get you anything for passing your defense, so I just thought I'd take you shopping, which is just really funny because, like, if you think about things that Jacqueline would like to do at any given moment, shopping with somebody else's money is probably top of the list. So he took me shopping. I didn't really find that much I liked. I bought a bunch of books and a jumper, or a romper, that's it. And then we just had some time to kill before dinner, and so he suggested going to take a walk in Duke Gardens, which again, like, should have cued me, like, why would we drive to a different town to walk around in gardens that I've been to many times, and then drive back to the first town for dinner? But we went to Duke Gardens and we're walking around, and I guess at this point I should mention to any new listeners here that I have really bad body image problems, and normally I kind of speak irreverently about this, but I don't know if that would go over well. So I'll just say I gained like 15 pounds in the last couple of years, probably because I turned 30 and went on Lexapro, and it's made me really insecure. Like I obsess about it. I'm like compulsively making comments about it. Um, and I don't know how to stop. And I think I have pretty strong mental health overall, but that is not my best area. So the point is, we were walking around and he saw a like cute bridge and he asked to take a picture of me, and I hated the picture. I thought I looked fat in it, and so I started compulsively like making these comments, and he sits me down on a bench and starts saying incredibly sweet things to me, and I thought he was just trying to comfort me because I was like, saying that I was ugly, etc. Um And then of course he's like saying these really sweet things, so I start kind of tearing up and crying a little bit. He's like, no, 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 don't start crying. It's okay. I'm like, why? Like you're saying really sweet things, but he thought it was because I was upset about, you know, not being skinny. Um, and anyways, then he kind of like launched into even more of a speech, and he used this tone of voice that he had used to jokingly propose to me in the past. So at first I was like, shut the fuck up. Like, okay. But then I like saw he like kind of paused, and then I saw the like imprint of the box in his pocket. So I was like,
Oh,
oh shit. And then I started like silently crying, and I wish I could bottle up his speech because that was the best part of the whole thing. He just like said incredibly th sweet things. I think the gist of it was like the best thing that ever happened to him, besides his son, obviously. Um, and I've just changed his life, and I make every moment an adventure, and his life has expanded so much because of me. And he has just gotten to have so many new experiences, and um, he's grateful for that, and he wants to continue that forever, and I love you so much, etc. Um, so yeah, so he proposed. He did not get down on one knee because he's first of all he's 1,000 years old, and it was leg day 2 days ago or 2 days prior. So he's like, I won't be able to get up. I'm just kidding. He's 41 years old. But he likes to talk about how he's 1,000 years old because he feels like his body is always breaking in various ways, mainly from workout injuries. So yeah, so then we just like FaceTimed my parents and then his mom. And it was really weird because his mom is like the most loving person on planet Earth. Um, but I think because it was so hot and his face was like really red, she kept being like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm like, "Carol, of course he's okay. He just proposed to me." Like, why are you acting like he should not be okay right after proposing to me? But anyway, then we went home, we got changed, and then he told me he had dinner reservations for us and then like a hotel room so that we didn't have to worry about like getting home or whatever. We could just stick around downtown and like have fun as much as we wanted. So then we show up at the dinner, and the host is like, "Oh, Fisher, table for 12?" I was like, "Oh, shit." So then all of you guys were there, and you'd all look like coordinated, and like a friend of mine from out of town came. Well, you're a friend from out of town, so you came, and also Sarah, another friend from out of town, came. So it was super lovely, and we just had dinner and stayed at the restaurant as long as we wanted, and then went to a rooftop and then passed out in our hotel room, which was probably not the purpose of the hotel room as he initially envisioned it. But yeah, and then, just continued to have fun the next day. So that's the story.
oh, that's so cute.
But
Oh,
I want to
and
hear how he was behind the scenes because he told me that he ruminated at you and Rachel
just a
and
little
Caitlin.
bit. It's so funny because you're one of my best friends and I barely know him. And it was like a nice time to get to know him a little bit more. Like we
Mhm.
talked around your dissertation and got to plan a little bit with him. He had everything under control, and he was just like kind of a little anxious about the change in plans with the massage, but
Swab.
real and also the rain was going to happen.
Oh,
I
yeah.
probably threw a bomb in his anxiety where I was just like, so you're going to go to Raleigh, have brunch and shopping, and then you're going to drive 30 minutes to Durham to take a walk in the sweltering heat and then drive back to Raleigh, and you don't think
And
she's going to find out. But thankfully, it didn't ruin anything. But no, I mean he seemed like confident and in love, and he just it like talking to him. I talked a lot to him about his relationship with you and his past relationship history, like while we're waiting for your dissertation, and he just I think that's I mean I wanted to bring this up for this topic of co-regulation as a couple because the thing that stands out between you guys is like how calm you feel around each other. Like you are clearly each other's safe haven, right?
Mhm.
There isn't like I hate to bring up your last engagement, but I I think we should actually listen to our podcast from from after that. But
Yeah.
you always seemed more like anxious and tense and like I got to make this work. And
Mm-hmm.
here you just have this ease with him, and there was an ease in the way he described your relationship, and like his greatest concerns was like in the future, will he have more time with you and how can he make that happen?
Yeah.
And I was like, are you nervous? He was like, no, I'm not. I just want to get this done. I want to do this. I want to start, you know? So it just like, it's just lovely to watch like this weekend of all these life events and watching you two navigate it together, just like comfortable within each other. It was really nice.
Yeah, it's, my ex gave a fabulous proposal. It was outstanding and grandiose and everything, but I never felt I should have, I mean, I was grateful, right? But I think there was so much chaos in that relationship that last night I was like going to bed and I was just like, Jason's proposal was very simple. But I was like crying a little bit thinking about like how sweet he was and how much I know he is kind of like fretted about not disappointing me. Um, because that last one was like a hard proposal to follow and I did not need a repeat of that by any means. But it's just like really sweet just imagining him like texting everybody and trying to make me proud and happy and how anxious he was about that aspect of things that he reported to me.
Mm.
So it's just like, I don't know, it's just really sweet. He's just like he's such a good boy and yeah, he's definitely my safe haven.
Hmm.
I mean, I used to feel I would only see him on the weekends for like the first year of our relationship. And I used to get kind of anxious as soon as I had to leave because it was like, I'm not the most, I don't think I'm the most anxious person ever, but, when you know that like the person who makes you feel safest in your world is going to be absent for 5 days, and it's just like, oh, and I would feel that difference.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I hope I'm that for him as well. Sometimes he feels like so mature and so adult that I'm like, can I even be that person for him? But I think
Well,
that maybe
actually,
has more
it's
to do with my
interesting
beliefs
thinking
about
of
myself.
like, sorry, say that again. I
I
didn't
think that
interrupt
probably
you.
has more to do with my beliefs about myself than anything in my
Yeah, the
head.
shame. There we go.
Yeah.
That's the next topic. No, I mean, it's really interesting to learn more about co-regulation. Trying to bring it back to the academic stuff, from emotionally focused therapy or
Emotional focused.
emotion focused therapy, EFT, right? Where I think when I thought of co-regulation or just regulation in general in relationships, I thought it was just calming down, right? Like most of the research is talking about how moms and their stress levels help calm babies down. So if I'm calm and I'm holding my baby, it
Hmm.
helps them calm down. So it's it's two nervous systems regulating each other. And I just assume it was all about calming down. But actually, when we learn in EFT, there's three different roads to connection. There's the high road, which is the honeymoon, fun, sex, play, right? High energy.
Hmm.
Then there's the middle road, like the practical things, getting the day to day stuff done. And then
Hmm.
the low road, which is being vulnerable with each other and talking about hard things and keeping each other safe and, yeah, feeling safe and comforted during some like unpleasant or vulnerable feelings.
Yeah.
So it's really about regulating each other where you need to be on each of those roads, right? Like, so if you're regulating up, right, you're like able to have fun and able to engage each other in play and make fun and joke and, you know, like
Hmm.
enjoy each other. But if you need to be in that vulnerable place, then you regulate there by just like providing that kind of safe haven.
Yeah.
So I see that in both of you. And like maybe for you, like I just saw it all this weekend where I actually took a video of it, so I'm gonna show you. But
What?
when you were waiting for your dissertation, he was like you were so cute. You were like hugging and kissing him. And I've never seen you that like openly affectionate with someone. Like
Hmm.
you just like can't keep your hands off him. You're like hugging and kissing him and teasing like you like look like your body is drawn to him. And so you were
Hmm.
like grabbing him and and then he was like rubbing your shoulders or like, just like rubbing your back or something. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to remember that for the co-regulation episode because he was there to like, like just be with you in that anxiety, not like trying to, he wasn't saying, oh, don't worry, it's fine. He was just like there with you.
Hmm.
And then also trying to regulate your weight concerns
Yeah, no shit, he
to
escalated it so much.
and you probably regulate, so those are like the low road moments, but then also the high road moments. He has been so like such the responsible one, like taking care of a kid,
Hmm.
working so hard as he is, and he doesn't have as much like that play and the relaxing and fun that you bring to him clearly. Like he said, yeah, she makes me do adventurous things, and like I would never. She took me up like our first date was on horseback riding, and I was like, oh my god, why would I do something that high risk? But there we were, and then my horse got kicked in the face. Like it's just like I was like, that's so classic Jacqueline, and she's just bringing like the joy of life to him. So you were regulating each other in these all these different roads. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the the play aspect of our relationship is amazing. Because I do think he needs that desperately. He just has never given himself permission fully to like let go and play and be selfish and like take a moment for himself. And I'm thinking about like the vows that I'll write, and that's a huge part of it. Like I promise to give you everything you sacrificed in the first 35 years of your life because he sacrificed so much, and I want to make sure when he leaves this earth that he hasn't missed out on anything. Um, you
Made
know,
me cry. Are you serious? It's so cute.
he, I haven't met many, the vast majority of men that I hear about or meet who, for instance, got their girlfriend pregnant when they were really young, do not wind up being the primary caretaker. I mean, he wound up being the only caretaker, because she happened to die, but he like wasn't pushing for, abortion. He wasn't pushing to break up. He wasn't saying like, okay, you have to do everything then. It was like he stepped up, and stepping up comes with a lot of sacrifice. And I love him, and I don't want his life to be one of sacrifice. He's still got a lot left. But I also really, it's not just been one of sacrifice, it's also been one of suppression. He's had to suppress a lot of feelings, and I'm kind of trying to help him draw those out a little bit more. You know, sometimes I don't want to feel intrusive, but I'm hoping that I can help regulate him there too and be like, look, like, your emotions don't have to be so scary, and we don't always have to be having fun. I'm most honored, I'm most happy in the relationship when he opens up to me and talks about these things and feels like he can do that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and I think, I like the idea of upregulating and have that, and then having this like security and safety with the practicality stuff. I think co-regulation is really about, attunement and kind of like understanding the needs of the other person in that moment, and figuring out how to meet them and validate them. And our needs aren't always about pain. Sometimes they're about yearning and aliveness, and wanting more, and being ready to meet that. But he is certainly an incredibly calming influence, and I also think like he's done a lot to just make me feel like a good person. I mean, the reason I thought I had to make my last relationship work under at all costs, right, was because I had like a low belief in myself to be a good partner, and that was um fueled by how my ex talked to me, and some other things. But it's a lot easier to show up in a relationship where you feel like the other person fundamentally thinks you're a good partner. So I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, like I'm a good partner. Okay, that means that I have the self-esteem capable of like taking care of him, and showing up for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. Like that, the natural part of you of being able to dive into adventure is something that he really needs. He just missed out on that. And I mean, I do love that idea in EFT of what we're going for, what we're actually working towards in a couple, which is, I like this, they call it
Hmm.
co-regulation and co-creating meaning. So it's not this, you're only happy and having fun and in love. I think we've talked about in this podcast, like what is love? What is
Hmm.
romantic love? Is it that infatuated, over the moon, oh my God, I'm chasing them, I'm wanting them and desiring them? Um, that's part of it. That's one part of it. But the other part is being, I like what you said, like attunement, attuning to each other's needs, even if it's not, quote, happy, and then
Yeah.
co-creating meaning. Like we're just like coming together on it and coming up with our own shared story of what that meant.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think attunement is attuning to each other's needs, but also each other's stories, and like coming together to co-write a story and basically
Mm,
say like, what is this future that we're designing together? Are we aligned there, and can we make sure that we remain aligned? And there's a lot of excitement in that when there's two people with enough compromise and enough admiration for each other that bringing each other's stories in is actually an exciting prospect instead of a combative or threatening one.
mhm,
Like stories about how you want to raise your kids, or stories about how you want to grow old, or family traditions, how you want your house to look.
mhm,
I think
mhm,
Jason and I are sometimes at odds about mostly the superficial ones, like how do we want the house to look, right? But ultimately, it's like what I want my story to look like is to have him in it and to be loved like this forever and to give everything I can to him. And so like the rest being a bit of a compromise is whatever. I mean, we want to raise our kids in very similar ways, and so it seems like the important things are kind of ticked off, but the rest of it is like, okay, like how am I going to change my vision to make room for him? Um, and that's a creative endeavor.
mhm, mhm. Trying to think, it's so interesting that both of us got into our current relationships because we came from ones that felt unsafe and fraught with, all this angst. And we both responded to our partners because we felt safe with them. Like even from day one of you meeting, I remember you telling me about him and you're like, I don't know, it just felt safe. Like I just felt good. It felt right to kind of like go on these dates and see him more than I probably would, open up more, have sex with him, just you felt like it felt right and safe.
Hmm.
And it's just interesting because I don't know, like I think that that's such an interest. And then I got in my head about, well, we can't really get rigid with that because not everything feels safe, right? There
Hmm.
is parts of our relationships that don't feel, quote, safe. Like there's incompatibilities, there's arguments, there's points of differences where it's heated topics or something like that. So not everything feels like, oh, I don't have to think about anything. But maybe it's just like I feel safe being myself, being
Hmm.
accepted by them, and knowing that they want me in that story of their future. I'm guessing
Hmm.
I'm just like
Yeah,
brainstorming out
rhythm.
loud here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the way I've felt in past relationships was that if I had a need that was out of sync with my partners, that would be threatening to one or both of us, that it would be used against me. Like if I couldn't express myself properly, or if I were angry or something, that would be just, there wouldn't be any acceptance around that. There wouldn't be any like desire to help me through that, or to change behavior, because it was like we were in combat or in competition or something. Like who can
Mm,
get whose needs met more, who can
mhm,
win, whose story can win. Um,
yeah.
and here I just don't, if I'm upset with him, I almost have to fight the urge sometimes I have to fight the urge to like tell him because I know if I tell him, he's probably going to make me happy, and I don't want him to sacrifice too much of himself in that. I don't know that he'll make me happy right away, but um, he has so clearly taken my desires into account.
Hmm. Yeah, it's much more a feeling of making a unit than adding one and one, right? It's just like a really emerging of two,
Hmm.
and instead of like me versus you, and
Yeah,
whether, you know, and yeah,
there you go.
I'm just thinking about like it's cool to kind of see how the science plays out in our relationships, like what we're talking about here, of like that unit and that shared life. I was reading about the social baseline theory by Jim Cohn. So
Hmm.
it's the idea of co-regulation is interesting because it's like it really gives a lot of like cred to we need people, we need relationships and love, not just because it's nice or whatever, because like it's a like survival mechanism
Hmm.
where the idea is like if you have two people doing something together, you're sharing the load, you're sharing the resources, you're protecting each other. One person can sleep in the cave and the other person can watch out, right? There's two people to gather the food, hunt the food, and cook the food, right? There's you can literally share the load with each other. And there's this beautiful study, I think Jim Cohn 2006. I'll try to link it to the show notes, but where I mean, this is a crazy study. It's like it's so cool. But he had married couples lay in like with the wife lie down in an fMRI machine,
Hmm.
and she was just strapped to something that would give her an electric shock that's painful.
Hmm.
And so they were like scanning her brain while she's waiting for the shock. And the
Hmm.
three different conditions are she's alone,
Hmm.
she's holding a stranger's hand,
Versus her husband.
or she's holding her husband's hand.
Yeah.
And it's cool, like if you're holding your husband, if they're holding their husband's hand, their anticipation of the
Hmm.
stress and the shock was a lot lower, and even their stress responses were a lot lower,
Right.
attenuated, compared to a stranger or alone was like the worst, I think. And it was moderated by their relationship quality. So the more they had a trusting, loving relationship, the more they felt like the more it actually like reduced that stress response. So
Hmm.
it like literally takes pain away. So it's just like it's such a beautiful example of like sharing the burden and sharing the stress of life to make life easier.
Yeah.
This is not
How do
sorry, not
we?
to shame people who are single. I mean, like it's also awesome to be alone, and that all of this applies to like best friends or other people who are close. So just
Mhm.
just just a shout out for all the single ladies out there.
Well, I also don't want to suggest that if you're not in one of these relationships, you're doomed. Like, the purpose of EFT is to get to this place. And what often happens is that people might have the capacity to co-regulate, but they haven't learned that shared language yet.
Mm,
And so what happens is that people learn certain communication moves. They learn to run away, to hide, to be combative, to to criticize, right? To defend. But underneath that is a different story, one of longing for connection and shame and um, sometimes hopelessness or other really vulnerable emotions, and learning to share those, learning to, you know, to be vulnerable then allows your partner to respond to what's actually happening. And so then they have a chance of co-regulating you. The problem is until there's that safety, it's hard to feel safe enough to open that up. And so that's what the EFT therapist helps you with. Um, so I would recommend, just if you don't feel like this is your relationship, to just get some help with it because you can learn different moves.
mm. I like that. I like that sometimes people think that couples therapy is only for when you're on the rocks and you're about to break up and you need help. But, even if you're just noticing that you're not really there for each other during the stressful moments,
Yeah.
you might be good at like the middle road stuff where, you might be good at, I would say that this is a lot of my last marriage where on day-to-day levels it was okay, like talking about the taking out the trash or whatever. We were day-to-day practical stuff okay, but like
Mm.
when you get to those more vulnerable emotions, when you start to see that the way you protect yourself in those moments actually clash and make it worse, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're feeling sad or hurt or shame, and then you withdraw or yell, and that protection response is actually like rubbing up against your partner's feelings, then there's that quick clash. And there
Hmm.
are ways to just learn how to slow down and notice what you're doing to protect yourself and to kind of express those vulnerable emotions in different ways. So, yeah.
I mean, if two people come down for a conversation and they both have literal shields and swords, then what's the likelihood that this conversation is going to turn into a safe and co-regulatory space, right? I mean, you have to put these things down and come to each other bare-chested, and that's what EFT helps you with. I
Mhm.
also really like that you just tried to tell me that in your last relationship, the middle road stuff was okay, like taking out the trash and doing chores when.
Yes, I did those things. So it was totally fine. We all agreed that I should do all the day-to-day tasks.
Yeah.
And we co-created a meeting where Kibby was just good at taking care of things. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. I'll just stuff down my other feelings until it bursts out in a yell.
Yeah, that worked. That
Yeah, it
worked.
totally worked. Yeah.
The middle road stuff is quite literally just like deciding on who takes on the menial, like it's just making sure that survival stuff is in order.
Yeah. I think it's
Okay.
just like
Because
who
that's
hunts and who
Jason.
gathers and like who it just
Uh-huh.
is the daily stuff. And you could see that there's some couples who don't connect on that, where
Mhm.
watching some people co-parent, like co-parenting is really where, or when you live together too, when you share responsibilities, that's really when you become partners in like the job of life.
Yeah.
And you could see people who just snap at each other, like they might have fun with each other, or they might actually like love each other and be comforting in those like really tough moments. But the day-to-day stuff, I mean, one person just can't figure out how to get the kids to school on time and get everyone dressed, and then the other one is like really upset and you know like flustered at the schedule, right? Like sometimes like the
That is actually my
admin of
biggest
life.
concern for my relationship. It's not the other two. Because
Well,
I'm
yeah, maybe the
dabbing.
middle road is gonna be
Jason is
the
like,
place.
the commander in chief of the middle road, and I'm a, you know, peon. And
Maybe he's the captain, and
yeah,
you're gonna be the
for
second in
sure.
command.
I
Yeah.
do not want to be the captain. That is for sure. Maybe with the kids, I don't know, but not with keeping them alive. More like raising them and making them smart and loved and
Oh, the fun stuff. Yeah, that's
yeah.
the hard part about what do I actually need to pack to go on this like two
That
hour
part,
trip.
that part I'm not
It's
so good
like
at. I'm not
there's
so good.
so much stuff.
I think though, I think I'd be willing to take on the disciplinarian role because because I would get super psyche about it. Super child development. I know
I like to say,
you're
I really actually can't tell which one of you are going to be the disciplinarian.
yeah. I think he's probably good at it. I think once it comes to punishment, I don't want that role, but I'm hoping that like co-regulating before it gets to the need for punishment is what I'll be good at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that bodes well. I think that that is such a great part of your relationship, the fact that you can co-regulate and comfort each
Mm.
other in times of stress, just because like that was such a key part. I should tell Alex this. Like sometimes we talk about like what we need to do better, blah blah blah, but I think like we got together and had a baby really quickly. And so sometimes our couple like relationship learning is like we were best friends for 18 years and then suddenly we became partners,
Mm.
and we sometimes like want to defer to the friendship, like we want to be just like Kibby and Greer instead of
Hmm.
like co-parents or like lovers.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just I
What is the
maybe
difference? What is different as a friendship like
well
versus
that's what
being
I
lovers?
ask myself all the time in couples therapy. I'm just like, but like How is that different from being like compatible friends? So I don't know yet, but like, but I go, yes, whenever they say, wow, you two are great friends, but new to the relationship. I'm like, yeah, what?
Mm.
I think because there's so many different layers of a romantic relationship, right? Like Alex and I can laugh together. We have the high road, we're laughing together. Oh yeah. So our high road and middle road are good. We
Mhm.
are practically really good together and um have fun together. But then and then also what's really nice that I only discovered while we had a kid was how much that helping each other through the low road of I'm stressed out about this parenting, like he's tantruming and I'm tapped out.
Mhm.
His calmness can help calm me, which then calms the kid, right? Like it's just such a biological thing that happens so quickly where like I've talked about this before and like you could escalate each other so quickly with the stress as a family that if you just have one person who's like, all right, let's take a breather, guys, let's all chill, then it
Yeah.
really can interrupt the tantrum cycle. But when it comes to talking about hard things or conflict between us, like repairing from fights, that's the place where we um, shy away from because we don't want it to interfere with everything else. So we
Mhm.
get a little like, little controlling about that. Like, oh, I don't want to say the bad thing because it will upset them. And then, so
Yeah.
we're working on it.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if friends are much more avoidant of conflict typically than romantic partners,
And
it's easier
different
to,
needs and different
yeah.
conflicts, right? Like, if him asking if it's okay to go away for a weekend as friends is like not an issue. It is an issue with us because it's like, like,
Yeah.
so, yeah, so it's just like, can you, it's not about whether you have fights or
Mhm.
whether you're happy or sad all the time, but it's like, can you repair? Can you be like,
Yeah.
hey, the thing that you said was really hurtful or.
Okay, so question.
Hmm.
So I've heard the term co-regulation be weaponized before, where it's like I was really upset and I needed my partner to like I needed him to regulate me,
Hmm.
basically. So when do we know if it's tipped into territory where you actually need to take responsibility for your own feelings and not expect your partner to be there for you in every hard moment?
I remember that that someone asked this in the workshop, and now I can't remember exactly. But I remember coming in as an individual therapist into emotion regulation. We should learn to use skills to regulate our own emotions. What do you mean? I need another person to help me regulate. Like, isn't that dependency?
Yeah.
Um, and I think the name of the game that we always talk about is flexibility, adaptability,
Hmm.
right? Like if you are with your partner and you just, you know, go in like you're a little old couple and you just like hold hands everywhere and calm each other down, um, then great.
Hmm.
But there are such situations where they might not always be available. They might not always be available to regulate you. Like maybe they're
Yeah.
stressed out too. So, if you're always looking for one source of regulation, that's going to be tricky. If I only drink to calm down, if I only have Alex to calm down, that's going
Hmm.
to be a problem because life is not always going to be available to you. You're going to have to
Yeah.
find other ways to tolerate that distress or work with your emotions in other ways. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
No, I
yeah.
think that's definitely one piece. If you are incapable of regulating on your own, then there's no amount of co-regulation that's truly going to be a substitute for that, and it's that is sort of by definition putting a burden on the other partner, because then they can't leave. And that's actually how I felt in that past relationship. It's
Mm-hmm.
like I can't even leave the house. If I leave the house, he's anxious, and then I have to think about
Mm-hmm.
that and feel guilty about that. And um, but I think also like thinking about how your needs for regulation impact the other person. Like if you scream and cry at your partner and then expect him or her to then help you regulate, is that really appropriate? Because sometimes your best co-regulation is to be separate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not great co-regulation. That's probably like couples therapy time, maybe. I mean, taking time out's just fine, but if your truest best form of co-regulation is to not be in the same room
That's
together,
interesting. Um, okay, so like attachment theory and probably social baseline theory will also say that they talk a lot about proximity, about being next to someone, touching, like the study with the women in the shock room, like, it's about touch.
Mm,
So there's a lot that is regulated through touch,
mm,
maybe because we're just such, empathetic, sensitive, like beings that is just like a quick way to feel someone else's autonomic system is like,
yeah.
does this person's hand feel calm? Um, but I wonder if it's also co-regulation, if it's like, hey, I know that we need space right now, and
Hmm.
that's a thing that calms us down. Let's go do it. I imagine that's a type of proximity, like not a physical one, but like an emotional one, where it's like, I know that we're still together, even though that we're taking a step away from each other. What do you think?
I mean, I'm sure there's the exception to the rule that I'm thinking of. Like, Jason told me before we got together that sometimes he needs to like not cool down, but like recharge his battery by being alone. And that like the best thing I could do for him in those moments would just be to let him be alone. Interestingly,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually not something we've confronted. Um, but I think if both of you, have like those sorts of batteries where you're like, okay, the way for me to feel okay again is to take space, and we both know that, and so great. But I guess I'm talking about fundamentally, like if when you are in conflict or something, or when you have needs that are needed, you have to go away from yourself every time in order to regulate that. That feels like something that needs to be tooled with.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I
I
mean,
think
maybe
there's a
that's
way to
helpful.
do that while being attuned and like to be Coco in that moment, right? Like we could take space, but still be like with each other, like attuned to, like you would be attuned to his needs of taking space and still be like loving and connected and available and engaged emotionally, right? Versus
Hmm.
like, fine, I'm leaving, I'm getting out of here, screw you, right? There's a way to take space in a way that's like with somebody, right?
Hmm.
Versus like shutting them out.
Yeah.
And I wonder what it's like when co-regulation or the need for co-regulation could feel like control. Like
Hmm.
I I'm I could only feel calm if you don't go out with your friends or something, right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
when is it co-regulation versus like I feel calm in response to what you do?
Yeah. When you make your feelings the other person's responsibility, then there's a problem. I mean, ideally, like your partner is there to help with your feelings, but to have to take on the full responsibility for them by modifying their own behavior every time or in response or in like it immediately, right? Like
Yeah.
in my former relationship, if he was upset, he'd get into the fetal position and shut his eyes and tell me that he was imagining me having sex with somebody else, which wasn't happening. And then I would have to say, like, okay, like I'm gonna sit here, rub your back, like, please open your eyes, please, please. Oh, closing your eyes is not helpful, right? Imagining me fucking somebody else, is that helping you feel better? No, okay, so let's open your eyes. Okay, I won't go out. It's okay. Like we can sit here. I won't have friends that are male. I mean, like that's like pretty coercive co-regulation. Um,
Yeah, I mean this is real stuff. I mean, I remember being there many times, and one of the first nights, like it was outside of a bar. Like you were talking about your time at the Bachelor, he was outside the bar, like
yeah, that's pretty
there's a
bad.
lot of coaxing to make him feel better about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but originally when I asked the question, I wasn't even thinking about him. I was thinking about a female friend of mine who was like, see, if my ex had just done this, right? Like, if he had just, like, helped me every single time I had an emotional response, then we would be okay. But the ex was overwhelmed, and every time she had an emotional response, he had an equal and opposite emotional response, and this is the pursuer withdraw
Mm.
cycle, right? Like we're back. The pursuer's like, regulate me, tell me it's gonna be okay, tell me that you won't leave me. That's how you can regulate me. And the withdrawer's like, this is putting too much on me. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid of making a wrong move. The best thing that's co-regulating for me is to give me space. And so it's interrupting that to find balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a both and situation, right? Like
Mm,
we are responsible for our feelings and our partners really affect them,
yeah.
right? It's the same thing as like making a decision together. Alex and I chose to live in New York. That's a hot topic. We bo- we both had the agency to make that choice.
Yeah.
Our choice affected each other's.
Yeah.
However, we both have ownership over that choice, right?
Mm,
So to be like, that person made me do this. I can't feel good unless they make me feel better.
yeah.
I mean, that's just really ignoring the you of it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like what makes Jason and me successful at this. And I mean, I think one of the things is like I don't actually require him to co-regulate me most of the time. I've got friends, I've got the bathtub, I've got a cat, I've got
Mhm.
like healthy mental patterns for the most part, except for all the ones I've shared in this podcast episode. People are gonna be like, oh. Um, so I don't think I put an oversized burden on him. And then same with him. You know, he has his family. He's a compartmentalizer, which I would actually be happy to regulate him more than I do currently. Um, so yeah, so I think part of that is like learning your own basic regulation, and then your partner is kind of the cherry on top. Because you don't want to become too codependent there, because it's simply you just don't want to lose your own ability to do it. But really kind of like really taking responsibility for your emotions and realizing that your partner is there to help you with it to the extent that they can, but they are not there to be coerced by it. And ultimately, this is your responsibility. You're the, you know, live together, die alone, but with emotions. Like at the end of the day, your emotion is the one is it's what lives in you. It lives in there, and like they can help you as much as they can, but they're not the one that is feeling it directly. I don't know. What tips would you have?
Tips. I mean, I think that from EFT, what we learned is what we talked about in the last episode. You talked about a tempo, where if you're
Mhm.
noticing you're not co-regulating, you're noticing that you are stuck in a pattern of the pursue withdraw, um, or you're constantly feeling anxious or trapped in your relationship, or feel like, hey, whenever emotions get high, it's bad. I think the tips are slow down and notice what's going on in moments of conflict, like really slow it down and use a microscope to be like, okay, when he said this, I felt this, and then I protected myself from that feeling like this, right?
Mhm.
And then that protection mechanism did this and then, right? Like kind of noticing your emotions and how it affected them.
Yeah.
And so just like taking ownership of your piece, but then also like I think remembering with co-regulation, your energy affects someone else. I mean, I really actually learned this in Thai massage. This was the place where I really learned this first, and then I learned it again as a therapist, where your stress, your emotional state, and everything like transmits to that person. So
Mhm.
sometimes it's not even what you say or what you do, it's just grounding yourself and feeling, I won't say relaxed, but feeling like grounded and present, and it
Mhm.
helps that other person feel that way too, even if they're not aware of it. So if the other person's escalating and exploding, not, just like kind of go with them, attune to their emotions, but also know that your presence and your emotional state is going to affect them. So, like take a moment to regulate yourself, and it will help the whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah, tempo is yeah, if you can locate your emotion and then locate the interpretation you made about what's going on and then locate the protective action, then you have so much right there to communicate to your partner. And also understanding that your protective pieces like aren't your full self. So if you behaved in a way that you're not proud of, like that doesn't have to be something that has to be to take up the whole of your character and then fill you with
Mhm.
shame and make you react even more poorly in response to that. I'm like obsessed with internal family systems right now, but we can start understanding ourselves in terms of different parts and be able to say to our partner, like, hey, this, you just encountered a part of me and I'm really sorry, and let's figure out how to work with that. But I know for now we've got to call time. So thank you all so much for listening to me gush about my relationship. And we talk about romance, interpersonal stuff all the time on this podcast. So if you are interested in more, stay tuned. And please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you like us. And we'll see you next week. By accessing this podcast, I acknowledge that the hosts of this podcast make no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast and any and all content or services available on or through this podcast are provided for general, non-commercial informational purposes only and do not constitute the practice of medical or any other professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and should not be considered or used as a substitute for the independent professional judgment, advice, diagnosis, or treatment of a duly licensed and qualified healthcare provider. In case of a medical emergency, you should immediately call 911. The hosts do not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement.